I'm happy that even though I'm pushing 40 now, I still haven't reached the point where I'm crusading against some kid's toy about being evil and leading them on the path to debauchery or something.
Oh, but man, you gotta find something. Yeah, it's
Maybe I have to be well into my 40s before that happens. I mean,
maybe.
there's a lot of stuff I don't care about, like Snapchat. I don't care. I mean, but I'm
Yeah.
not crusading against Snapchat is going to make our children sloth like idiots. It needs to be banned. I don't care. It's fine. I just don't care. I have no interest in using it myself, but
Yeah, yeah. I think our generation is probably not going to reach that.
hope so.
I don't think just because
One less worldly
technology has
problem.
it. Well, I think the difference is technology has gone through so many iterations during
Mhm.
our 37 years of existence that we're not surprised by new iterations.
That's
Whereas,
true.
whereas the baby boomers, they had great leaps in technology, and that it wasn't really a gradual process for them.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was one day there were home computers, or one day there were no home computers, and the next day there were.
yeah. So
And
maybe it's going to take you're right. The improvements to technology have been iterative, evolutionary rather than revolutionary. Maybe it will take something completely new, uh, like if Siri is a full functioning autonomous robot that follows you around and answers questions, or Star Trek holodeck stuff.
uh,
That'd be oh that no that's just the kids are going to be in their
well, even
holodecks all
even
day.
then, that was dream technology for us as children, and so
True.
seeing that come to pass, it would be
Yeah,
incredible.
our kids are going to think it's evil. We're going to be like, finally, we've been waiting our entire lives for this, and our kids are going to be like, Mom, Dad, you're going to rot your brains and turn stupid in that. It's like, no, I finally got my jetpack.
Yeah. It's
So,
like you're 80 years old. You can't drive a car, let alone fly a jetpack.
well, not legally. So, all right, it's 7:01, so let us start the show. You
All
got a
right. Um,
stopwatch?
oh, actually, no, I don't think I do on this computer.
Oh, well,
Let me
don't
see
worry
if I can
about
get.
it.
All right. Yeah, I was just had to make sure I had Chrome on this computer, and then I completely spaced it on this stopwatch.
Matthew, you pedant. Zachary didn't mean literally overnight. Did you?
Maybe.
No, no. It was I woke up one morning and suddenly I had a computer. I didn't even buy it. Weirdest thing. All right. So, stopwatch or no?
No, I don't. I don't have
Okay.
one on this computer. And
It will be all right.
all
That means no timestamps this week because I'm not taking the time to scrub through the show. I'm glad you guys watch it, but I don't watch this show. Um, all right, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 67. Andrew Eisen here, along with the voice of Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, everyone. You can't see that I'm not actually waving at you, so pretend that I did wave at you.
So, why no video today, Zachary?
Because technology hates me. And now I went up to my in-laws' house last weekend, and I brought my computer along with me because I wanted to do a little bit of game development work and also the podcast that night. And I pulled out my computer, and it couldn't find my graphics configurations. Like, it was just like, we couldn't figure out how you want to display graphics. So we're not going to do anything for you. And it's like, here's a bunch of options. 90, there's like a list of 5 options, and it wouldn't let me actually select 4 of them. And the one it wouldn't let me select was completely useless in this scenario. And so that ticked me off, because this was a problem that I had a few months back, maybe half a year ago or so, and I thought I had fixed it, but it was manifesting in a different way than it was before, and so I got really annoyed, and I powered off my computer and powered it back on a few times, and then it decided it couldn't find my hard drive, and that kind of really ticked me off. I was about ready to just drop kick my laptop. So I'm on a backup laptop now, and it doesn't have a camera built in. It has a microphone built in. I don't know why. It's got a microphone but no camera. Go figure. So yeah, I'm on this thing, and it's not. It doesn't have, or it's got integrated graphics, so I don't even think I can game on this. Well, my kids play Minecraft on it pretty well, so I might be able to do some gaming on it, but nothing graphics heavy, I don't think. But so right now I am pricing laptops, looking for a good deal on something. I would really like to get another Asus Republica Gamer laptop, but the cheapest one I can find of those is $1,000, and I don't have that much money to spend.
Yeah.
So I was looking at some Acer gaming laptops, and they've got some that are under 600, and they're pretty comparable to my current laptop, or the one that's not working, but a little bit better, because the one that my laptop has a 1 gig NVIDIA, like it's got I forget which NVIDIA graphics card it's got built in, but it's a 1 gigabit video card, and the one that I'm looking at that's an Acer one is a 2 gigabit one, and then it's got 8 gigs of RAM, and I think it's got an i5. And if I wanted to spend an extra $100, I could get an i7 CPU. So I might go the extra $100 route and get the better CPU. But yeah. And I'm also going to buy another laptop hard drive and see if I can salvage this laptop, because if I can, I would still get the new one, but I would install Windows 7 back on this other one and use it as my Windows test machine for game development, because I'm currently not using one. And Scotty J Man says it would probably be weirder if my laptop had a webcam but no microphone. That would probably be kind of weird, but I don't think it would be a big problem, because most people who use webcams have a headset. I don't know very many people that use the built-in microphones, because they usually suck.
That's true. I mean, if you're soloing, you can go ahead and use your camera's microphone, but if you have someone else there who's not in the same room as them, you kind of have to use a headset, because otherwise you get feedback from your speaker sound.
Yeah.
So Matthew asks, how old is that PC?
I got it back in 2010. So it was a pretty top of the line. Like it wasn't top of the line back then, but it cost me $1,000 when I bought it.
Yeah.
And so it was a pretty high end laptop at the time, and it came with 8 gigs of RAM. The one gig graphics card, i7. I think it's an i7.
Yeah,
CPU.
mine. My current machine is a little over 5 years old now, so I'm probably going to have to replace it in the next couple of years. But it's still chugging along just fine. I also don't generally game on my PC, so I can usually get away with not upgrading a lot longer.
I was actually surprised about how well this laptop has been holding up. My very first laptop was a Gateway gaming laptop, and it was practically out of date a year after I bought it, because I got it through school, and the school went with the 32 megabit graphics card instead of the 64 megabit graphics card. So so a lot of the games that were coming out I couldn't play, or the ones that I could play, I couldn't play at very very high graphics and stuff. But it lasted a little while, but eventually I just had to replace it. There was just no way I could actually continue using that.
Matthew,
I think I actually stopped using it for a while and went with a desktop for a few years before I got my current laptop.
Yeah, Matthew has a couple of things. Advises to go with GPU over CPU, and I generally would agree with that statement too.
Yeah.
As typically these days, the bottlenecks you're going to find are in graphics.
Yeah.
Loading
well, the
of
thing is
information.
The lower end gaming laptops are typically 2 gig graphics cards.
Mm-hmm.
If you go anything above that, it shoots the price up to $1,000 minimum, and I can't spend $1,000. So,
well, you need a laptop. You need to be portable.
Yeah, I typically take this laptop with me to, game dev meetups, game shows, and just generally when I travel, because I like to be able to, if I go somewhere over the weekend and I'm not actually doing something, like if I just go to my in-laws' house or something, I know I'm going to have some downtime, so I would like to be able to do some development or just goof off for a little bit when I can. But and there's only so much you can do on your phone.
Yeah. Matthew also tells me that I'll notice a massive render speed increase if I upgrade, and that's true. One of the reasons, because I'm rendering he's speaking to the YouTube videos I do, which I render at 1080p 60 frames per second, which on my box it takes a while. I mean, it's not horrific, but a 10-minute video will take me probably 40 minutes to render. Which is a long time. Luckily, I don't have so much time that I'm rendering tons of videos, so it's not that big a deal. So I'll typically just render something overnight and then check it in the morning, and if it's good, I'll post it. So it's not usually a big deal, but yeah, I would, because especially when I do quicker to produce shows like Debut Review, I shoot like 4 episodes at a time, and then I'll load them all and edit them all, and it's like, okay, finished editing 1, render, okay, gonna have to do something else for 30 minutes. It would be nice to pick that up a bit, but like you say, it's going to be several $100s to get a new PC, and there are other things I want to spend my several $100s on right now. So it's going to be at least, unless this rig dies, it's going to be at least another year before I get a new PC, if not 2. So.
Mixtape Troy just joins us, wondering how long we've been going. Just a little under 10 minutes.
Yeah, we just started.
Yeah.
Matthew brags he can do a 24-minute 1080p 60 frame in about 50 minutes. So mine tends to, it depends on what I'm rendering. Like, if you just pointed the camera at a wall and recorded an hour of footage, that would render faster than 5 minutes of you in front of the camera moving all over the place. Because how renderers work is they'll do frame comparisons, and they'll say, oh, these frames are exactly the same, fine, and they'll just chunk through it. But if it has to specifically render every new piece of every new frame, it takes a lot.
Yeah, the more pixels that change between frames, the longer it takes.
So speaking of Debut Review, it's over. It's all done. Well, there will be a finale episode probably Monday, where I talk about
the one where you talk about the shows that you're actually going to keep watching?
The
Or?
shows that I've at least continued on with episode 2. So it should be a short video because this season sucked. Yeah, it was a rough season. There were like
Yeah.
25 to 30 shows that I watched, and well, last season's finale I had to break up into 2 parts because it was like 40 some minutes long. I'm pretty sure I'll get this all into one video.
Yeah. Well,
Not
I think
to say it wasn't anything worth watching, but yeah, rough season.
yeah, I think for me, I've been really looking forward to a couple of new shows that are coming on. We've got Inhumans premieres next week, and then Black Lightning premieres I think the first week or two in October, and so I want to watch those, and I would like to get into doing some, maybe not video reviews, but maybe some actual TV reviews on Random Tower, because that's something that I do a lot. I watch a lot of TV, and IO9 used to do they used to do next day episode recaps where they kind of review the episode and talk about what happened in it, what was cool, what was stupid. And they stopped doing that when they merged the site in with Gizmodo. And so that was a lot of people are disappointed in that. And, that's something that I wouldn't mind doing. But that would probably take a lot of time because I do watch I watch every single superhero show except for Gotham. Because Gotham just really annoyed the crap out of me after the first, during the first season. I watched the first season, and then after that, I just kind of said, "Screw it, I'm not watching this show anymore." But I watch all the other superhero shows, and I think it would be fun. This year, I'm really looking forward to the Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow crossover, because they're doing. The crossover with that is going to be some kind of collision between them and a world where they exist as the bad guys, so kind of a Crisis on Infinite Earths type thing. So that's going to be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, reviewing is fun, especially now. I could do scripted reviews, but that would just take a lot more time. The thing I like about debut review is I think it's kind of fun to sit down and just talk about. If you haven't seen my show, how I structure it is I sit down in front of the camera and I tell you what I'm going to watch. I haven't actually watched the show yet. In fact, I usually don't know what I'm going to watch until I see what the next show is on the calendar. And I say, oh, I'm watching this, and I read a show description and look at the poster, and I just give my thoughts on where I think this show might be going or what I think of the poster art. And then I watch it, and then I immediately sit down and record my thoughts. So one of the fun things, and I've talked to some of my viewers in the comments about this, is one of the fun things for me is a lot of times when I hit record, I'm not quite sure how I feel about the show yet. I'm still processing it. So a lot of the episodes are me working out my feelings towards a particular show, and it's actually sometimes I'll start a review and will end in a different place than I thought I was going to, because I'll talk my way through a show and go, oh, that's actually kind of interesting. Maybe I will watch episode 2, or even the complete opposite.
Yeah. A lot of times, you come out of something and you just aren't quite sure what to think of it until you actually start voicing what you think, and so you air a thought, and that leads you to another thought, and you air that, and you go through this little chain reaction of thoughts and then you finally reach the point where, you know what, that show actually does kind of suck, or that was kind of interesting. I would like to see where they take this in the next episode, because very few shows will just grab you and say, this is awesome, and I'm going to watch every single episode of this for the rest of my life. There's rarely a time you'll hit a television show, a cartoon, or whatever, and have that experience. For instance, the new Spider-Man cartoon. I watched the couple of or the shorts that they did on YouTube, and then they played the whole first episode on YouTube, and I watched that, and I came out of that and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit better than Ultimate Spider-Man, but not quite as good as Spectacular or the Spider-Man from the 90s.
Mhm.
And then I watched a couple more episodes, and I'm just like, I don't like this because
Yeah.
they turn everybody into geniuses. Like everybody in the show are geniuses, and it's driving me nuts. Harry Osborn is a genius. Flash Thompson, I guess, isn't really a genius, but he keeps showing up at genius school tryouts and science. Like the Tony Stark, they had an episode where all these schools were invited to the Tony Stark Technology Expo, to show
Yeah.
off
I think
a
that
really cool technology that they've been working on. And Flash Thompson shows up from Midtown High with a paper mache baking soda volcano,
mhm.
and it's like this. It's just so stupid. They're running him as a running gag, but it's just really stupid. And
Of course, sometimes in some of my reviews, notably Angel's Three Piece, I think it's called, um, I get off on a tangent and just don't even talk about the show. I think in Angel's Three Piece, I ended up talking about music theory for over 10 minutes. I was talking about, I remember I ended up talking about funky time signatures and why you might want to use them if you're composing music. And that had really nothing to do with the show. I mean, the show's a music show, but I think that was my longest episode. It's like half an hour long because I go off on two because I'm a musician myself, so that it's a subject that interests me. So I ended up going on two music tangents that really didn't have anything to do with the show, but hopefully they were at least
interesting.
entertaining, if only in kind of a baffling way. Speaking of debut review, will I be doing it for the next season of shows? No, because I'll be busy with some other video projects that I'm working on, plus the Extra Life charity event, which is in the beginning of November. So I won't actually have time to produce a full season of debut review.
So how
However,
many new seasons of anime come out in a year?
usually three. It's usually spring, summer, and fall.
Okay, yeah, because I was just like, it's like you just came out of one. I guess
Yeah.
anime doesn't stick to a normal network television schedule. So
Not no, yeah, and you do get some in the winter too, but it's usually not as big as spring, summer, and fall are usually the big
yeah,
ones. But Matthew says four, but winter is usually pretty light, or I've just not been paying close attention, which is possible. So for the next season, I'm probably going to do a video in a couple of weeks. So yeah, okay, there is a winter season. Yeah, there or boy, the inflection on that was all wrong. There is a winter season. It's just my experience. It's been really, I don't know if it's been light or if it's like the dumping grounds where it's constantly shows I don't care about in the winter. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I see it as spring, summer, and fall rather than winter being its own season because
yeah.
I can't think of any show that debuted in the winter that I cared about, and that may just be me not paying attention. It probably is. But I'll probably do a video in a few weeks once the schedule comes out and say to my audience, here are the 20 to 30 new shows for this season. If there are any particular ones you think I should watch, let me know. And maybe I'll do 5 or 6 viewers' choice type of shows, or if anything looks really interesting to me, I'll watch it. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have a time to do all however many come out this fall, but I do like doing this show. But Extra Life, it's weird because if you've never done anything like that before, it's like, why is it just play games for a day? That takes literally a day. What do you do?
There's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird. I think one of the most valuable things I ever did was get my Eagle Scout back in Boy Scouts back in the day. Because one of the things you have to do is an Eagle Scout project, right? And when I was a young little child, I'd go to summer camp, a week-long Boy Scout summer camp. And when you're 12, 13 years old, summer camps are just something that magically happens. You don't think about
Yeah.
the planning and organization that goes into it. It's just, you just do summer camp. It takes a week. How hard is that, right? But when I was 15, 16, however old I was when I did Eagle Scout, I managed a large project at a game fish and wildlife conservation place out in Arizona, and I gained a realistic understanding of managing and putting together large scale projects. And this project is nowhere near as complicated as producing, or not the right word, but organizing a summer camp. But I'm like, oh, organizing large events is hard and time consuming and complicated. And so that was a very useful life lesson for me, I think. And it makes projects like my various video projects, the Extra Life charity event, a lot easier to approach these days, because I understand it's something that I've actually been working on since last month, knowing how much organization I have to actually put into this thing to pull it off correctly. So hope you're all looking forward to that. My sister will be here. I don't know if I'll have a Switch by the time the Extra Life charity event happens, but if I do, I'll probably be playing Mario Odyssey damn near the whole time. If not, there is a PlayStation 4 game called Deception or something like that I'd kind of like to play. I think it'd be fun, especially with my sister here. It's a game where you play like an evil queen or something, and you're in a castle up on a hill, and do-gooder heroes keep storming the castle to kill you. And so you have to set like Rube Goldberg mouse traps to, the wall pushes them onto the springy floor, which lands them on the spiky thing, and then the wrecking ball swings down and smacks them in the head. That looks like a lot of fun. I think that could be a good. They're being sold on GameStop, Switch plus Mario plus case for $380. Case for what? Like a carry case because it's a portable. I keep thinking that's actually a portable console. Carrying case. $20 for a carrying case? That better be a nice case.
Yeah, that was something that Kotaku wrote about earlier this week, was that a lot of GameStops are forcing you to buy Switches in bundles, even though corporate says that they have told stores not to force bundles, and but apparently some stores are doing that, and I don't know if the GameStop online is doing that either. I haven't looked at it, but yeah, I think we've talked about the forced bundles on a previous episode, but yeah, it's a really annoying and dumb practice. People shouldn't be forced to buy a bundle, especially some bundles are okay, like a Switch and a game. Maybe I could deal with that, but
if I get to pick the game,
if you get to pick the game, but some people actually have already bought games for the Switch that they're planning on getting because they were waiting to find a Switch, and they didn't want to show up to buy a Switch on when it's finally in and the game they want is not be available. So they would probably be pretty annoyed if they were forced to buy a game that they didn't want.
Back in 2001, I bought both Luigi's Mansion and Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 weeks before the GameCube came out, because they were on store shelves.
Because they were available.
They were there. I'm like, I'm getting them anyway, so I bought them, and I read the instruction manuals, and I'm like, just need the console. And 2 weeks later, bought the console, and that would have sucked if it's like, oh, we're only selling the console with Luigi's Mansion. It's like, I already have Luigi's Mansion. I bought it from you. So
not a video game, but I bought my first music CD like months before I actually bought a CD player. Don't know why. I just did.
It's like I bought a nice pair of floor mats, and I just need to buy a car. But these are nice floor mats.
And then you buy a car, and the floor mats don't actually fit the profile of the floors.
Right.
You know?
So, okay, let's move to a topic that you actually wanted to bring up last week, and it's we're visiting our old friend DMC.
The DMCA, the Digital Millennium.
It's weird. I'm so bad with acronyms. I actually usually have to think of the entire phrase before I can get the acronym right. It's like Society for Barbershop Court. I'm losing my train of thought with it. Society for the Preservation of Barbershop Quartet Singing in America. I have to think of the whole damn thing. SQB or something. Anyway, DMCA abuse. And this is a story that actually had an interesting twist because there's an argument. There's not an argument, but a question as to, well, could DMCA abuse be used for the right reason? Could there be a moral motivation behind it? So tell us a story, Zachary. Set the stage.
All right. So Campo Santo, they're a developer. Not really an indie developer, but they're not AAA either.
Indie-ish.
So yeah. But they made a game called Firewatch. For those that don't know, Firewatch is a game where you play a ranger in a national park, and there's some kind of mystery you have to solve in this park, and you've got a walkie-talkie, and you're talking with somebody in the watchtower, and it
turns out she was dead the entire time. I have no idea if that's the twist.
No idea. I haven't played it yet, and after the recent weeks, I probably never will because they kind of ticked me off. So that's one side of this. And then the other side is a small time YouTuber. You probably never heard of him, but he goes by the handle PewDiePie, and and he's made a huge name for himself. He's last I heard, he made like $13 million in 1 year, and which is completely insane. I'm really surprised that anybody makes that much money on YouTube, because I've made all of $0, and Andrew makes all of like $7 a month.
So, I made almost $30 last month.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
best month I ever had.
Yeah, but PewDiePie has kind of made a name for himself of being loud, obnoxious, and that's kind of his shtick. And but in recent months, he's kind of become notorious because he has done some really stupid anti-Semitic stuff, and then he just recently. He casually yelled out a racial slur during a gameplay session. I think it was Battlegrounds Unknown or something like that. And this caught the attention of the Firewatch developers, Campo Santo, and they I forget the guy's name now. I haven't. I don't have the article pulled up, and I forget the guy's name that runs the studio, but he decided that he didn't want anything to do with PewDiePie, and threatened on Twitter to DMCA the Firewatch videos.
Well, I think it was more than a threat. I think it was an announcement that this is.
Well, yeah, it was basically we don't like you. We're going to be DMCAing your videos, and then the videos disappeared. I'm not quite sure if they actually got so far as to do the DMCA, or if PewDiePie pulled the videos from public viewing or something.
From what I understand, that the videos were taken down by PewDiePie himself.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the copyright strike actually went through or not.
Yeah. So it's not clear if the DMCA went through or not, but the end result is the same. The videos came down. Um, but this sparked a widespread discussion about the DMCA, and there was basically two camps and a lot of discussion between lawyers. A lot of websites like Kotaku, Polygon, and a few other sites. They interviewed lawyers that were involved in the games industry to get their opinion on this whole situation, and and then there was a whole bunch of discussion between gamers and game developers alike about what the implications of this is. And first, I want to talk about the legal ramifications here. The consensus among every lawyer that was interviewed for this over this thing is that the DMCA allows game developers to do whatever they want. They could give somebody explicit permission to air footage of their game, and then the next day DMCA it. They would be it would be perfectly legal to do that, because you would be tough. It would be really tough to prove in a court of law that that the game developer, the copyright holder, was malicious in their DMCA, because it's nearly impossible. And then the other consensus is, so first consensus is that the DMCA is very broad and allows game developers, movie producers, copyright holders in general to DMCA something for any reason whatsoever. And then the other consensus among legal scholars is that the fair use status of Let's Play videos is completely up in the air. There is a couple of lawyers pointed.
Never gone to court.
Yeah, this has never gone to court. The closest that the only legal precedent that was pointed at wasn't actually a legal ruling, but a while back there was a now I'm trying to remember the game company that I think it was Midway. They filed a lawsuit against a unauthorized strategy guide producer who made a Mortal Kombat strategy guide without Midway's permission. And the strategy guide producers, they filed a motion to dismiss the case because the strategy guide was fair use. The judge rejected their motion to dismiss, and that's as far as legal records went with this. So apparently, this was settled out of court, as far as I can tell. There's nothing after the rejection of the motion to dismiss.
No one really wants to take the time and money to fight this in court, and neither side wants to risk having a ruling come down against their side and setting a unfavorable precedent.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're at with the Let's Play videos, is that we're in basically a nuclear standoff between game developers and Let's Players. Neither one of them really wants to go into legal battle, because game developers don't want to lose their rights under the DMCA, because if the Supreme Court says that Let's Plays are fair use, then game developers are really limited in how they can use the DMCA to take down abusive videos or other aspects of violations of copyright. And then Let's Players don't want to go to court because they don't want the Supreme Court to rule that Let's Play videos aren't fair use, and which would completely destroy the YouTube industry for YouTuber industry for game Let's Players.
Right.
And so we're at a situation where here we've got a completely up in the air legal landscape where basically all the cards are in the game developer's hands. And so the Let's Players are kind of at the mercy of game developers. And here we've got a game developer that is willing to use the DMCA to silence someone for what they have said outside of the videos with the copyrighted material that the copyright holder does. So PewDiePie never said anything nasty or racist or anti-Semitic or anything in any Firewatch videos, but because he said that outside of those videos, Firewatch developers Campo Santo sent a DMCA. I'm gonna say that they sent it because there's no indication that they didn't. So they sent a DMCA notice because of something completely unrelated to their copyright. And to me, that is a very, very bad precedent to set for the DMCA. Because if you can send a DMCA notice over someone's racist statements, what's to stop another developer from sending a liberal game developer from sending a DMCA notice to a YouTuber that is openly conservative, or the other way around? What is to stop anything, punishing anybody for their personal opinions and thoughts outside of reviewing a game or let's playing a game?
Where I stand on this, and is fairly nuanced, I suppose, because nothing's ever black and white. I learned that when I was a kid. See, when I was growing up, I was like, there's right and there's wrong. There's nothing in the middle. And then you grow up, hopefully. I want to address something that Matthew said in here. Says, this isn't DMCA abuse. Lawyers have said they are well within their rights to DMCA the video. Here's the semantic point on that. And this may be overly pedantic, but I think it's important. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's not abuse. Just because it's legal and you can do it and it would work and it is within your legal rights doesn't mean it's still an abuse of the system. It's using it for something it wasn't. I don't think this is not of the spirit of the DMCA. I don't think this is really what it was intended for. So while I do agree that if this did go to court, they would probably rule in favor of the companies incorporate the copyright holder. I think if this actually went to court, I think the copyright holders would win. Like that, no, they do not have a right to stream our copyright on YouTube or wherever. I think courts would probably look at the same as music and movies for the most part. The DMCA, but what I'm talking about with abuse is what you said, in that Camposanto used the DMCA not to alleviate an infringement of copyright, but in order to distance themselves from someone that they think can hurt their brand by association. That's not what the DMCA is for. I agree it probably can be used like that and would work, but again, that's an abuse. That's the wrong tool, I would think, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to screw a screw into a plank of wood, you can hammer it in with a hammer. It's going to work, but it's the wrong tool. It's an abuse of the screw, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. You flatten the thing, you bend the side, you bend it all out of shape. Yeah, the screw's in there, but you should have used a screwdriver. Yes, the screw should go on the wood, but you should use a screwdriver. I look at, from Camposanto's point, this comes across to me as very similar to any type of, say, musical artist objecting to a political ad that employs their song for the background of a particular political ad. And they're like, well, I don't agree with your politics. I don't want you using my music in your ad. I don't care how transformative you think its use is.
Yeah. Well, in those cases, that's actually kind of different because typically what happens is the venue that the politician uses has an ASCAP license that allows them to play any music in that venue that is under that ASCAP license, and then after the fact, a musician finds out that their song was played, and they're like, we don't support that, but yeah, that's it's like the politician had a license to play that music. You can't say that they can't play the music. You can completely disagree with the politics and publicly state that and say that you don't want anything to do with them, but technically there's nothing they can do to stop that politician from continuing to use that music as long as they have that ASCAP license, in the venue that they're speaking at.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But but you're right. There wasn't anything specifically about the Firewatch Let's Plays that Camposanto objected to, other than the fact that they hit the final straw with PewDiePie himself and said, we don't want this person associated with our brand. Now, Scotty J-Man asks an excellent question, and that is, then what would be the correct tool? I think probably this isn't, I don't know if the analogy extends to tool for this, but I think probably the first thing would be to contact PewDiePie and say, we don't want you playing our games online or on Twitch.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if that would work. I mean, he has no legal obligation to abide by that, but I think that probably would have worked.
I think, that was my first thought was, send PewDiePie a letter expressing your disappointment and asking him to remove your videos because you don't want anything to do with him. That's probably the first and best thing that you could do, outside of just publicly expressing your disappointment, your desire to not have anything to do with this person you find repugnant. That's, to me, is all perfectly acceptable. Another option.
Yeah, say that doesn't work. PewDiePie gives him the finger. What would be another tool in the toolbox?
Now, personally, I really, really hate the content ID system because, to me, that's even more abused than the DMCA is.
Well, yeah, because it's easier.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, but just send a content ID claim against the video of the Firewatch videos and take all of his ad revenue. This doesn't solve the problem of not being associated with PewDiePie, but at least PewDiePie at that point is no longer profiting off of your game. And that gives PewDiePie an incentive, again, to take the video down, because if he's not making any money off of it, why have the video up there anyways? And personally, I do hate the content ID system. I think that YouTube made a huge mistake when they implemented it. But again, that's one of those tools that could have been better. And Content ID doesn't have legal ramifications in the same way the DMCA does. There are legal ramifications with Content ID because a YouTuber could dispute the claim and file a lawsuit against you for abuse through that system, and that could lead to a similar situation with the DMCA. But it is an alternative because it doesn't have the same the strong legal ramifications that the DMCA has. And so so it's not perfect. We're not in a perfect situation here,
right.
And that's the frustrating part. Is because we are in a system, we are dealing with a system that has no legal clarity. Matthew says reviews are fair use, Let's Plays are not. That is not true. Neither one of those have actually been Well, I guess reviews might have been pretty much taken out of this situation because people have been reviewing copyrighted stuff for for decades. If Siskel and Ebert could review movies and show clips of it, for decades,
True.
surely
Reviews are
game
also
reviewers
in
can.
by nature critiques, and
Yeah,
that is
exactly.
explicitly stated in fair use. So
Mhm.
there's, at the very least, an extraordinarily solid argument for
Yeah,
reviews being fair use.
yeah.
Let's plays,
Let's
not so
plays
much,
let's plays
in and of themselves.
yeah, in and of themselves don't have the same the same status as reviews, primarily because with a review you're only showing clips and you're discussing the game, and you're critiquing it, and all of that. With let's plays, you're with let's plays, you're playing through the game. You might be critiquing it while you're playing it. Like, for instance, I would probably say that a straight up stream of a game without any commentary, without any voiceover or anything from the player, that would probably be pretty clearly not fair use in a court of law.
And even then, I think a lot of this is so damn complicated, because even
Yeah.
then, I think a lot of it comes down to what game you're playing. If it's Super Mario Brothers, I would totally agree, because a playthrough of Super Mario Brothers is pretty damn near the same. Now, there you
Yeah.
can do the warp zones, you can die in different places, but it's pretty much the same experience front to back. However, if you're watching someone play Tetris or video
Oh,
poker or
or Overwatch or something like that.
Overwatch or Minecraft, that's going one person's playthrough is going to be extraordinarily different from another's. And
Yeah.
in those cases, what's the draw? Are you watching the game, or are you watching the person who's playing the game?
Yeah, and see, that's one of the other aspects. So there's four aspects of fair use. Let me pull them up real quick so I can actually um, uh, talk about them with.
And even one of the tiers of fair use is broken up into a couple different things. So
Yeah, so there's four main planks of fair use, and golly, did I even pull up the right one? Oh man, this is
oh, wait a minute, that's an FAQ for a subway pay station. It's like, oh, that's how you use your fare to get on the subway. That
no, it's just that
didn't work. Sorry, I
yeah,
apologize.
the page that I usually pull up didn't show up in Google right
Matthew
away.
says what Total Biscuit. What Total Biscuit does is fair use. What PewDiePie does is not. I don't know what either of them do, so
Total Biscuit
I can't really weigh in.
Biscuit is an actual game reviewer, and PewDiePie is a let's player. So
Okay.
so two different things.
Sure.
All right. So these are the four questions that are typically a court will tackle when deciding if something is fair use. The first one is the purpose and character of the use, including whether the use is of commercial nature or nonprofit educational purposes. So this means what you're doing with it. So like if you're showing a movie off in a film study class, that would be fair use. If you're reviewing something, that's fair use. So the nature, what you're doing with it, and
essentially
this,
intent.
yeah, intent. And so reviews.
Why are you playing the game online?
You
To
know,
make money.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
going to count against you, probably.
well, the commercial nature of the use can be a strike against you, but also not, because that's only one of the planks. You
Right.
can still make money from fair use of a copyrighted material. If you couldn't, Siskel and Ebert never would have been anything. We never would have had Siskel and Ebert. So you can make money off of fair use and be perfectly in the right. And so And of course, you can also not make money and still violate copyright law.
Yes.
So, this is it's
But
one of
it's
those
not
situations where
monetized is not an argument, a legal argument.
yeah, exactly. And but so you've got the purpose and the character of the use. So I'm streaming a game and talking about, and reviewing the game while I'm streaming it, or talking about, say I'm streaming Firewatch and talking about how the Firewatch developers are abusing the DMCA. That could be fair use. That's something that Jim Sterling does all the time. Is he'll play a game from a developer that he's talking about. So the next one is the nature of the copyrighted work, and this one is kind of an interesting situation because how that copyrighted work is in real life. Okay, this is what the copyright.gov, the Copyright Office, describes this point. It says this factor analyzes the degree to which the work that was used relates to copyright's purpose of encouraging creative expression. Thus, using a more creative or imaginative work, such as a novel, movie, or song, is less likely to support a claim of fair use than a factual work. In addition, use of an unpublished work is less likely to be considered fair. So the nature of the copyrighted work. So if you were, say, quoting the Encyclopedia Britannica, you would most likely fall under fair use of that. But if you're using, if you're quoting, I don't know, Stephen King's The It, that might be a totally different thing. And again, this is just one of 4 planks. So, each of these are taken in and compared to the next. The next one is the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. So if you took, half of a book and published it online, that probably wouldn't be fair use. If you took a movie and published it online, that wouldn't be fair use. But if you just chopped out the pieces that you needed to discuss and critique, that could be fair use because you're falling, you're covered under the other 2 portions as well. And this is where Let's Plays hit that sticky situation. This is the one that is going to give them the most trouble in court. Because with a Let's Play, you're typically streaming a sizable portion, if not all of the game. And it could be successfully argued by a game developer that doing so violates the copyright because you are displaying the entire game to people who haven't bought the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a very convincing argument. But what Let's Players have in their favor in this is that it could also be successfully argued that because the person playing the game is a substantial part of the enjoyment of the game, is that watching somebody else play the game is a totally different experience than playing the game yourself. So without the player input, they are missing out on a substantial portion of what makes the game a game. And I think that is the best argument in favor of Let's Players in this case, in this plank of fair use, is that taking out the person, taking out the interactive nature of the game is removing a sizable portion, a substantial portion of the game experience.
What do you think?
And then the final point.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me just get to this last one. The last one's pretty simple. The effect of the use upon the potential market or value of the copyrighted work. And a Let's Play could be really easily argued that it is it helps sell games.
Right.
If somebody watches a Let's Play and they see that person is really enjoying the game, they're having fun, they're chatting up about it, talking about how great it is, what they like as they're playing, that gives somebody an incentive to go and buy it themselves. So yeah, that it's a very positive influence on the market of the game. Now, and that's totally different than a negative review.
Right.
Is
But you could
still
just as
fair
easily
use.
argue that the same gamer who watches an entire Let's Play might then say, well, no need to buy this game now. Already experienced it secondhand, albeit, but I've seen the entire thing. So,
And there's very few games that I would say would result in that happening for a sizable portion of the market.
mm,
You are going to have some people who have that sentiment, but I doubt it's ever going to be on a point where it actually negatively impacts the copyright holder.
yeah.
And if it does, then a simple review would have had the same impact too.
Yeah.
Because, so
As in, this game sucks, don't buy it. Well, I guess I'm not buying that game.
yeah, exactly.
What, just out of curiosity, what I was interrupting you with earlier is, what do you think about people who, or YouTubers who upload just all the cutscenes from a game? Like all of the story cutscenes from Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Here's the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite movie, all 2 hours of cutscenes. What are your thoughts on that?
I would consider that a violation of copyright law because they're typically those are not uploaded in the same way a Let's Play is. They're not critiqued or anything like that. It's just a straight up, here's all the cutscenes.
Yeah.
That's to me that's the same way as uploading an episode of television or a movie.
I suppose it's transformative in the sense that there's no gameplay. We took the game out of the game and just showed you all the story.
Yeah, but to me that fails on the amount and substantiality of the portion used, and also the purpose and character of the use. That fails on those two because they're just uploading it to upload it. They're not critiquing the story. They're uploading the entire entirety of the cutscenes, and without any any other things. And I to me, I think one, it's just bad form. It's you're being completely rude. Most Let's Players that I know of will actually cut the cutscenes out of what they upload, unless they're straight up streaming the game like on Twitch or something. But usually they, when they move those to YouTube or whatever, they'll typically cut the cutscenes out unless they have some specific critique of that cutscene.
Yeah. What I've noticed is that when I play PS4, occasionally I'll get a message that says recording has stopped because I've hit like an end game cutscene or something like that. And I'm assuming it probably does the same thing if I were streaming to Twitch. Like, oh, we're gonna block this from going out because
I think a lot of games like on the PS4 and the Xbox One have flags in there that the game systems honor, that says that, oh, you reached a point that the game developer doesn't want this stream, so we're not going to let you record or stream this. And I assume that that's happening, and I guess that's fair. I think that's pretty fair. Scotty J Man, I guess when I was talking about somebody watching a game online and then deciding not to play it, he talks about how that happened to That Dragon Cancer. And I could see that being the case because that's a game that a lot of people weren't sure how they would feel about it.
Well, it's also more of an interactive story than actually the game. So it is one of those titles that once you've seen it, you've pretty much seen it. It's going to be the same experience. So
yeah, Matthew says that the PS4 has those flags in there that stops recording and streaming, but the Xbox One doesn't. So,
every time someone mentions the Xbox One, I'm reminded it's a thing that exists. For some reason, the Xbox One just isn't a thing in my head. Every time I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, that is still a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't ever put much thought into the PS4.
Sorry, Microsoft. Yeah. Okay, so last question on this topic. should a content holder have some type of recourse to keep a person that they see as disreputable, or at the very least incongruous with their product? Should they have some recourse to divorce those two? So if someone who we could all agree is just an evil person. Emperor Palpatine, okay? Emperor Palpatine is a real person who exists on Earth and is live streaming your game. And you're like, I don't want Emperor Palpatine live streaming my game. That's a really bad look for us. No, should that developer have anything? Is there anything they can do to get Emperor Palpatine to stop streaming their game? And should there be anything that they can do to stop something like that?
They could convince Darth Vader to throw him off a catwalk into a nuclear reactor. But
Because personally,
I guess
I
technically it's
totally
not nuclear
understand
reactor.
the position of someone like, this person is a scumbag. I don't want them making money off of my work, and I
Yeah,
don't want their scumminess rubbing off on my work. I don't even want it to be a remote possibility that someone might think that we're endorsing him or her simply because they're making money off of our work. I totally sympathize with that, but I'll admit I am kind of uncomfortable, and I think it's mainly because of the rampant abuse of things like Content ID and DMCA
yeah,
abuse. I think if we didn't have years of DMCA and Content ID and trademark and patent abuse, or at the very least what I feel is abuse, I think I would be a lot more comfortable with there being legal recourse and tools in
yeah.
place to redress such grievances. But on the back of all that abuse, I'm like, damn it, anything you put out there is just going to be abused to all hell, and no one's going to be able to do anything from
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And that's kind of where we are in this day and age, is that
So the
any
answer is,
tool
I don't
that
know
we
what to do.
yeah, we're kind of at a point where it's like you've got this, you've got these situations, but there is no clearly right way to handle it.
Yeah.
And at the best, you could just publicly state that that person's a jerk, a scumbag, and we don't want anything to do with him, even though he's playing our game. We never gave it to him, so he bought it himself.
Emperor
And
Palpatine legally bought our game, as is his right.
yeah,
But we have nothing to do with the guy. We don't like him. We do not endorse him.
yeah,
You know, we
because
just have no way to say you can't play our game.
yeah, exactly, and that's kind of the sucky thing, is that yeah, as a game developer, I don't have any big name games. I'm not popular. Nobody knows who I am outside of the handful of people that actually know that I make games. But nobody knows who I am, so nobody plays my games. But if somebody that I just absolutely could not stand because they were scummy started playing it, I'm the type of person where it's like, you know, I don't, I'm not going to abuse anything, because I'm a very open-minded person. I believe that we need stronger fair use protection in the US. I believe that the DMCA is one of the worst copyright laws since the 1974 massive copyright term extension. Um, you
I believe
know,
the spirit behind DMCA is good and proper, but I believe that the execution is
I don't think that
flawed to the point where it's
yeah,
almost
I
completely
don't think the
useless.
DMCA has the DM. I don't think the DMCA made available anything that wasn't already available to copyright holders, because all it really did was open up the door
Sorry,
for all
read
the
the chat.
DMCA did was open up the door for um, attacking consumers, and not not the wide scale uh, piracy rings, like DVD copiers. People who would you know people who would copy movies and then sell them in black markets. That's what copyright law was intended to battle. And me making a copy of a CD and giving it to my friend, that's not what copyright was. What copyright law was meant to tackle. That's not what the DMCA. The DMCA made it possible for people to, copyright holders to go after me for giving a copy of a CD to my friend. And to me that's not at all in the spirit of copyright. Yeah. So yeah.
To end, I love Scotty Jamin's comment, basically saying that we could use a real world example. Say, how would the Pokemon Company feel if Michael Vick were playing Pokemon on Twitch? We're totally not comfortable
kind of
with
funny.
that.
I would totally watch that stream, but I'm sure the Pokemon Company
They'd at least release a statement,
and Game Freak would not be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're just we're kind of we've hit that hour mark, but there is one more page in this story that at least deserves a mention. At least is that after Firewatch Campo Santo pulled their DMCA stunt against PewDiePie, their game got review bombed on Steam. And for those not familiar with the phenomena that is review bombing, it's when people who are upset with a person or a company go on a site that allows public reviews of a product of that company, and they go and they leave the lowest possible score reviews, and with usually accompanied with a statement about how they do not like the person that made this product or the company that made this product. It happened a while back with
again, abuse of a tool.
Yeah, it happened a while back with a video game critic who said something really stupid on Fox News, and her book got
Lawrence Cooper.
Yeah, Lawrence. Yeah. That's her name in one of those orders. But yeah, her book on Amazon got complete, like thousands upon thousands of 1-star reviews on Amazon. But it happened to Firewatch, the Campo Santo on Firewatch on Steam recently, and again, I'm with Andrew on this. This is this is an abuse of a tool that's made available to us as gamers, and you're reviewing a game that you actually haven't played. You're not actually reviewing the game. You're reviewing the company or the person running the company, and you're doing it in a way that distorts the public persona or the public perception of that product. And as gamers, we may feel that we have limited options in this situation because the law is on the side of the game developer, while we don't really have anything else. But
review bombing is all I have, man.
Yeah, but Valve, in response to this, they put out a public post about the phenomenon and how that it's not something that they really like. And this is what they said. So they thought about it, and they thought about how they could prevent review bombings and stuff. And this is what they said. In the end, we decided not to change the ways that players can review games, and instead focused on how potential purchasers can explore the review data. They continue, said each game page now contains a histogram of the positive to negative ratio of reviews over the entire lifetime of the game. And by clicking on any part of the histogram, you're able to read a sample of reviews from that time period. As a potential purchaser, it's easy to spot temporary distortions in the reviews, to investigate why a distortion occurred, and decide for yourself whether it's something you care about. And this approach has the advantage of never preventing anyone from submitting a review, but does require slightly more effort on the part of potential purchasers. And this also goes along with another aspect, is that if you haven't actually bought the game through Steam, your review and your rating doesn't impact the public rating. If you're going through the store and you're looking at the list of games and it has the game's rating next to it, any reviews from people who haven't bought the game through Steam, like actually bought the game, not activated a Steam key, that doesn't count either. But if you didn't buy the game, it doesn't impact that top level score. And so that's how Valve has approached review bombing in response to this. Yeah, Jack Thompson was review bombed as well, and I don't think anybody's ever stopped review bombing Jack Thompson, but he hasn't done anything that needs
like
a review
8
bomb
years.
in years. So
Yeah, the interesting thing about that graph is I see a spike in reviews, and I'm wondering what was the significance of that day. Is that the day the game released? Or if you see it down the timeline a bit, is that like the release of a major patch or an or a content update?
yeah,
Those
or
are
a sale or something. Yeah,
spikes
and
like that.
yeah, and that's what they mean. You can click on one of those spikes and read some of the reviews from that. And typically, if somebody's getting review bombed, you'll be able to read that almost immediately in the resulting sample of reviews, because most people will write in their reviews that this person abused or this company abuses the DMCA notice, so don't buy their game.
Right. And not the again, it's one of those things where I understand the sentiment, I just don't agree with the solution.
Yeah.
And I can sympathize with the feeling of powerlessness of, well, I don't have any other option. This is the only thing I feel I can do to actually make a damned bit of difference. Still, I tend to be a bit of a stickler about these things. For example, I was just saying in the chat is unlike Jack Thompson's book, Cooper Lawrence's book. I'd have to look at it again, but I don't think it had
it didn't have
anything to
anything
do with video games.
No, it didn't. And
Right.
and really, Warren says that that she was lying about video games, and I wouldn't really classify what she did as lying about video games, because she was actually blindsided into that review. She had no idea what was going on, what Mass Effect was about, and she was just given a description and shown a clip of the sex scene in it, and was told to form an opinion that she could share within 5 minutes of going on air. And so she wasn't.
It's a technicality. She was definitely being disingenuous by
going along
speaking
with it.
authoritatively about something she had absolutely no idea what the hell she was talking about. That's at the very least disingenuous.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't balk at anyone who categorized that as a form of lying either.
Yeah.
But I still disagree with giving a work a negative review for a reason other than the work itself is crap. Now, Thompson's book is crap. I mean, not only are his opinions stupid and nonsensical, but the book's not even very well organized. It's just not a good book.
Have you actually read it?
I've read parts of it.
You've read parts of it, okay.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. I actually saw a copy somewhere once and I paged through it.
It's available for a penny, but I don't think it's worth the $3.99 shipping you'd have to pay.
Yeah, I don't remember where I saw it. I can't imagine it was a library, but I saw it somewhere and I paged through it and read some stuff. I'm like, did he actually write this himself?
Probably.
Because it's not as I recall, it's not as absurd and angrily hammering on a keyboard and then not spell checking before hitting send like a lot of his press releases were. It was a lot more measured, much like any of his public speaking.
Again?
Out of Harm's Way, I believe.
Out of Harm's Way. Okay, yeah. Out of Harm's Way. I'm looking on Amazon real quick. quick.
Matthew's talking
And
about there are good reasons to review bombs, for example, not having translations. Well, that's not a review bomb, though. That's an actual critique of the game not having proper translations.
okay, so it is available on Amazon. You can buy it from Amazon for $6.63 plus shipping. But there's only one left in stock, or you can buy 29 from 29 new and used offerings, starting at $250 plus shipping. So the price has actually gone up since the last time I've looked at it, because there were actually copies for a penny last time I looked, which was probably a good 2 years ago. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
it's
suppose
currently at 1.5 stars with 52 reviews.
yeah, and I suppose it's a bit unfair for me to say it's not well written when I have not read the entire thing cover to cover. But
Yeah, but
I
if you've
feel
read
I've read enough
his
reviews.
posts
I've read
or
enough of his actual writings to say fairly confidently that his
yeah,
writing didn't improve just for the book.
yeah, but yeah, but I do agree. Like with Matthew, he says that leaving a bad review if somebody doesn't localize a game, that I could go along with, because if they're not willing to cater to you, you can express that
Right.
that
Well, I mean, if
frustration.
a game releases in China with no Chinese text, then yeah, say that that's a legitimate reason to give something a bad review. I,
Without actually having played it. Yeah.
yeah, I can't play this. There's no it's not localized for our language. So
Yeah.
anyway, let's before we sign off, anything from Tokyo Game Show you want to talk about?
I
Have you
actually
been paying
didn't.
attention at all?
I didn't pay attention to it at all this week. I had a lot going on, so I was
Well,
completely out of it.
Tokyo Game Show, or as I like to call it, Monster Hunter World Show, with a guest appearance by Yakuza Kiwami 2. Uh, man, I've seen a couple things from it, but it's basically been Monster Hunter all the time. All Monster Hunter all the time for me. Oh, God, that game looks so good. I recently posted on Twitter that if I could have any game in its final complete state right now, it would be Monster Hunter World. Even above Mario Odyssey, above Yakuza 6, Monster Hunter World, man. Oh, that game looks so good. And not only that, but this isn't really useful to me, I suppose, because I'm a Monster Hunter veteran. But this game looks a lot friendlier to new players, a lot more welcoming, a lot less pound on a brick wall for 5 hours before you get it to lean enough where you can crawl up the hill. Because the Monster Hunter games can be obtuse and not
Yeah,
friendly at all. This looks like they're making wonderful, intelligent strides to make the game a lot more not palatable, welcoming and intuitive and understandable and approachable for new players. And I think that's really great. Plus,
yeah,
I'm loving some of the monsters. There's one big fluffy bat that it's this bat that has this like really um, dandelion white puffball around its head that it can just kind of inflate and then float around in the air. It is so cute.
interesting.
It's like I'm still going to hit it in the face with a stick, but it is amazingly adorable. Um,
It's cool.
Also, I've noticed that a lot of the new systems and features of the new game are things that I've been asking for a long time. Like apparently, one of the things I've criticized the game for is to play Monster Hunter, you really need to play it effectively anyway. You really need to consult outside sources, which I don't think you should be required to consult out the sources outside a game to understand any of the game.
Yeah.
So one of the I actually have a video about this, Monster Hunter wish list. You can look that up. But one of my things is maybe monsters that you capture are sent for study, and the more you capture, the more you learn about them. Like, basic ecology stuff, and then you can learn elemental weaknesses and damage zones, and what kind of drops they have. Capture versus kill, or if you have to break certain parts. That's actually in the game now. I'm like, Oh my gosh!
Nice.
Capcom is listening to me. I don't know how. I don't know if they have my apartment bugged, but I don't mind.
Yeah.
I didn't put this in the video, but I've also said, oh, wait, I had a script I never actually went for. You know, the really wacky ideas I had for Monster Hunter, and one of them was mounts. Like, what if you could tame the Aptonaths or any of the other smaller monsters and ride them into battle? You can't. Your hunter can't do that, but your palico can. Your little cat buddy can actually commandeer some of the smaller monsters and ride them into battle. It's so glorious. Oh, that is so good.
Nice.
There's a lot of things that I've even somewhat jokingly suggest. One of the things I don't think that was in my video, but I've talked about it before, is I'd like to see a bit more hunting in the Monster Hunter. You know, feel like I'm actually tracking something down, follow footprints and poop.
Yeah.
And it's that's actually in the game now to an extent. I mean, basically you have these little fireflies, you find a footprint and they're like, aha, that away. You have little bloodhound fireflies where the more T-Rex mucus you find scraped on a tree, your fireflies glow brighter and get a more obvious trail beelining for your quarry. Oh man, this game looks so good, and it comes out at the end of January, so 4 more months.
Yeah.
Matthew played it at PAX. No more tracking footprints. The game leads you to the monster. Right. Once you've found enough. So there's, I don't even know if paintballs are actually in the game anymore. Because basically, once you have the monster's scent, even if it flies away, your scout flies will lead you to it. Which is nice because I have on occasion, even though I'm very familiar with what zones a monster will be in, I've had the chance, especially with flying monsters, where I'll just be running circles around the map, and I know that son of a gun is just hopping back and like running around the map like an idiot for 20 minutes. I'm like, where is he? Also saw some. So anyway, Monster Hunter World looks fantastic. Super excited for that. Also, Yakuza Kiwami 2, Yakuza, which is a remake of Yakuza 2. Kiwami means extreme. And they were showing off some new stuff, and it looks like it's using the Yakuza 6 engine, which is cool. There's I don't know if this is actually a thing in Japan, but apparently if you go into public restrooms, some of the urinals have like a little digital game display on the top bit where you would flush, and I guess it's like those water gun carnival games, like if you pee in exactly the right spot, it does a cool thing on the screen. That's actually in the game now. So you see, so the camera is behind Kiryu's shoulder, and you can see him kind of jiggling around, and I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. There's also a sequence where he, I don't know why, but he's taken. I think you're the photographer in a gravure modeling shoot, and the model's actually a live action video. They've been playing around with this a little bit with Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza 0, so that's not too surprising to see, but it is kind of funny to see a live action human being interact with these still not cutting edge modeling of Kiryu's character model. It's discordant as all hell, but it's so damn funny. Matthew says, yeah, Kiwami 2 is using the newest engine. I also saw the Yakuza team is working on a English Fist of the North Star game. And I'm not a fan of Fist of the North Star. It's fine, but I've never been a fan. But so I was watching some footage of it, and Kenshiro, the big muscly guy with the tiny butt. If look at my Twitter feed, I put a picture of this guy has the smallest butt. My mom was like, "How does he even walk?" So I sent her a video of him walking, and it looks so weird because you have this giant guy. This guy's like 8 feet. Well, assuming everyone averages like 5'6", 5'8". This guy's probably 6'8" or something like that. He's got these he's a gorilla chest and broad shoulders. He's got this tiny little butt. It's the weirdest thing. Anyway, enough about Kenshiro's butt. But apparently there's a mini game at some point where he's in a cocktail lounge behind the counter, mixing a drink for someone. And he's got the shaker thing, and he's very serious, and he's shaking the thing, and it's instantly funny because you've got this giant gorilla guy in a suit, being really serious with his shaky thing, and then he goes. And he starts shaking this thing. It goes glows blue, goes all Super Saiyan as he's shaking the shit out of this tumbler, and then he just very gives this little tiny drink to some. I'm like, okay, you got me. I'm in. Oh god, that I don't know why, but hyper masculinity when it's played as a joke, I find extraordinarily funny, which is one of the many reasons I love the Yakuza games, because they are absurdly hyper masculine. So those are my highlights from Tokyo Game Show. Saw a little bit of Tokyo, or is it Tokyo RPG Factory? I think so. Their Lost Sphere, which they spell wrong on purpose. That they spell sphere wrong. I don't know why, but whatever. I saw like 15 minutes of that, and it looks fine. It looks like the stereotypical RPG.
Yeah.
Like, it's when you think Japanese RPG, this is exactly what you think it is. And I got a little bored watching it because I'm like, okay, but the neat thing about Project Octopath Traveler, even though it takes a lot of cues from what has come before, it's still unique in its aesthetics and some of its mechanics and the way it tells its story and stuff like that. This just looks, at least from the bit I saw, looked a little bland. But not enough to completely write it off. Maybe just wasn't the best. I mean, it doesn't look bad. It just looks average. It looks like a dime a dozen RPG. There doesn't look to be anything special about it, at least not from the footage that I saw. So,
okay. So. Yeah, I'll have to check out the games that they had on there. Tokyo Game Show is just, it's not one of those shows that are on my radar. So I typically, it creeps up on me, and then by the time I find out about it, I'm like,
trade show. So unless you find like some type of restream where someone's commentating in English, it can be a little impenetrable, because a lot of it are actually stage shows. A lot of them are conferences, very similar in a way to EA's E3 conference, or any of the big publishers doing that Bethesda's conference. And it's interesting though, because one thing I've noticed over the years is that Japanese conference game presentations, they don't use teleprompters. They use like books with script pages in them. It's so odd. They usually have some type of host there, and he or she will stand there with a book, and they'll have their speaking, their script in there, and they'll usually bring on the developers, who a lot of times seem to be speaking off the cuff, or they'll even have their own books. I'm like, you're Japan. I know you've got the technology for teleprompters. It's just a different way of doing things, and it's always interesting. And sometimes they'll demo games, and they usually have one person who does nothing except they'll usually have 2 or 3 people commentating over the game. They'll usually have like a developer and a moderator. The moderator asks questions about the game, and the developer will answer them. And they usually have a third person who does little more than, oh, Kakuyo! And they'll just exclaim how cool and neat and groovy and awesome and and I'm like, shut up. I hate that third person because they add nothing. I'm just like, shut up. You third wheel. Anyway, so Tokyo Game Show going on right now. Actually, they're half a day ahead, so I think they go through the weekends. There might be one day left, but Yeah, I'm a big enough dork that I actually watch this crap in a different language that I don't speak. Like I watch the Monster Hunter and the Yakuza stuff in Japanese, and I mean I know enough to get like numbers and dates and times and stuff and
Yeah.
general subjects of what they're talking about. I'll go, oh, there's a word I know. That's about it. I'm so not fluent in Japanese at all.
Yeah.
So and anyway, uh, so it's still fun watching all that stuff, and Monster Hunter is going to be the best thing ever. And one of my plans is to um, do a video for each monster in the game, basically a Andrew's first hunt video. So my first
Nice.
hunt for Mr. Fluffy Bat. I'll make a video out of that, and if Mr. Fluffy Bat kills me, then maybe I'll do a revenge video or something. But that's my plan. I have no idea how many monsters are in the game. There's 15 that we know about so far.
How many monsters were in the last one you wrote a guide for?
Um, the last one I did the guide for was 3 Ultimate, which had something like 60 monsters. Now, granted, some of them are kind of repaints. Like you have the Rathalos, and oh, we also have the Azure Rathalos. You know, um, let me look that up real quick because I know that's actually 3 Ultimate. I lost 10 pounds writing that guide because it took me 2 months.
And you didn't eat the entire time.
Because I was so busy writing the guide that I didn't have time to actually eat. Let me see. Basics, data sharing. Let's see. Combat upgrades, Mogavilles, item collection, ultimate version differences. I knew I wrote a section on that. Do, 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 do. 16 new monsters, so there's 16 new monsters and 17 new subspecies. So I didn't actually give a grand total, but it's something like 60. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. So we could probably expect around 50 monsters or so in this new one.
I would
Maybe more.
Yeah, in the new. Well, it's hard to say because this is the first time they're going in high def, high console thing. But yeah, typically I would say at least 40 major monsters until they do Monster Hunter World Ultimate and end up with a bunch of different stuff. And it also, again, it kind of depends on how you count. Do you count the Raytheon and the pink Raytheon as 2 different monsters? It's basically the pink Raytheon is a recolor with a couple new moves, more or less. Stronger, more aggressive, has an extra move or 2, but they're essentially the same thing. It'll be interesting to see. Well, one thing I'm really interested to see with Monster Hunter World is, are they going to have at least one new weapon? Because they've got all 14 weapons that have ever been in the game except a medium bowgun. They stopped doing that. They used to do light, medium, and heavy, and now they just do light and heavy. But bowguns are bowguns essentially. I'm thinking that I have to think they're going to have at least a 15th enemy or a 15th
weapon.
Weapon, thank you. One of my suggestions, and this is actually in my Monster Hunter wish list, is fisticuffs. So, so the 15th weapon may just be
punching the great Jaggy,
punching the crap out of a great Jaggy, or headbutting the bear off. Matthew says, my guess is the DLC, they'll treat it like a platform. That's true. Although Capcom has been pretty good about constantly updating Monster Hunter with free DLC. It's usually not like, here's a new monster. Sometimes it's usually collaboration armors and stuff. Like, here's Legend of Zelda armor, or here's Mega Man armor. Well, that's collaboration with itself. But or here's an event quest, which doesn't require them to really make new resources for the game. It's built from the resources that are actually existing in the game. But still, free DLC is free DLC. But yeah, I have a feeling that there will probably a year and a half later be Monster Hunter World Ultimate, which will have 200 more quests and 20, 30 new monsters and a couple of new variations and new species and stuff. And that's that's normally fine with me. Although it would be nice if the ultimate version of a game was like a $20 DLC upgrade if you own the original version, instead of having to buy a new version and start from scratch. Although I think one of them actually, the new one, Double Cross, I think had the ability to
import your save.
Import your save and progress from the previous version, but you had to buy the whole new game, I believe. Which is irritating. But there's so much damn content in these games that it doesn't feel as cheesy as, okay, here's a $60 game. Here's one new level for $20. It's like, oh, come now. Really? Yeah. And we have it right at the start. Again, a lot of it's perception.
Yeah.
I mean, if Capcom announces before the game even comes out that there's like, oh, and we've got 20 extra monsters if you want to give us another $60, it's like, oh, you slimy little square. So anyway, we've been blabbering enough. It is I need to eat dinner because I'm starving to death. I also have Yakuza Kiwami to continue playing. I had the most amazing. All the games have take your adopted daughter Haruka around and entertain her. It's called Haruka's Whims. She'll go, oh, do this, like win a bunch of money at poker or buy me food here. And so she says, hey, play this dice game, which is essentially they roll two dice and you bet if the two numbers add up to an even or odd number. I had the most amazing run of luck in that game that I think I have ever had. I've exhausted all the luck I will ever have for the rest of my life. I got like 8 or 9 rows in a row.
Wow.
And I bet even every single time except the very last time. I got 8 evens in a row. And I bet on even 8 in a row. And then I bet odd and it came up odd. I'm like, they're like, hey, do you want to put all your winnings against the house? I said, no, I'm good. I'm walking. And Haruka was so impressed. And her meter goes, I'm really impressed. And her meter goes, dupe. I'm like, oh, come on. that should fill all the way up. And then she says, go play blackjack. I'm like, all right. Earn $300,000 or chips in blackjack. I said, great. I had the most amazing run of bad luck in blackjack. I must have had the worst hour of blackjack in the history of blackjack. Seriously. I mean, they deal me a 12 and I'd say, hit me. And they deal me a face card. I'm like, oh, come on. And that happened over and over. For anyone who's not counting, that's a 22. And that happened over and over where I lost like literally every single hand. And it would rub salt in the wound because even when I would stand or bust or do something, like I'd have
you'd get 19.
I'd have like a 16. I'd go, all right, hit. And I'd end up with 27. I'd be, all right, screw it. And then I'd look and the dealer would end up with something. And it's like, I may as well have hit because the dealer ended up with 20 anyway. Oh, I had another one where I ended up getting dealt a 22 kings and I split it. And I ended up with, I think, 20 and 19. And I'm like, oh, man. I am so, and I doubled down on one of them. I had like 8,000 chips riding on this. Dealer gets blackjack. I'm like, oh, come on. I'd have better luck at Mahjong. Come on.
Oh, that's great. One of the in Stardew Valley, there's a little casino in there, and it consists of two games, slots and blackjack, and apparently, apparently the slots is is easy to play because it has a certain pattern to it. I haven't tried it, so I can't verify it. But the blackjack, I kept losing at. You got two tables, one where you can bet 100 chips, and the other one where you can bet 1,000 chips. And I don't think I ever won a single hand when I tried playing blackjack. So I said, "Screw it, I'm not playing this." So I just went and I bought 100 chips at a time until I had enough money to buy the one thing I wanted out of the gift shop in the casino, and then I left, and I haven't been back since.
It's probably something like bubble armor or something, isn't it?
No, it was actually a scarecrow. There's 8 rare crows in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 8 rare quests or rare crows in Stardew Valley, and the casino sells one, and it costs I think the total cost is around 100,000 gold.
Yeah,
but you have to buy chips in order to get it. It's like 1,000,000 chips, and that's around 100,000 gold, I think, is what it turned out to be. But it's like I tried winning that, but I don't think I ever got more than like I don't think I ever won more than maybe 100 chips, and so I said, "Screw it."
I don't know why I said bubble armor. I'm thinking of something else. But the in Dragon Quest shops, there's usually some like metal slime armor or something like that. And shop that's 5 million gold or something like that. And it's like, I'm gonna grind until I can buy everyone a set of this ultra high defense armor. Anyway, so that is our show for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around. And we'll be back next week with more. So until then, Andrew Eisen here. Eisen is how you spell the last name. Plug it into YouTube. You can find my silly videos. Debut review finale should be available Monday, I'm thinking. I'll probably record it tomorrow after I go see the Lego Ninjago movie. And follow me on Twitter at Andrew Eisen. Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Easy Night, where I actually have been posting lots of stuff lately because I don't have anything better to do. And you can also follow my game development work. It's DK_gaming on Twitter and DivineKnightGaming.com. And I've also recently changed up my Patreon to focus on my game development there. So just patreon.com/Easy Night if you're interested in my 1 game a month challenge. And then finally, if you're interested in the Oakland game development scene, check out okgamedevs.com or okgamedev.com and okgamedevs on Twitter. And then next week I may start writing TV reviews on Random Tower, so we'll see how that goes.
Also, I should probably point out, if you like supporting various creators, I mean, not just me or Zachary, but really anyone, Patreon's a pretty good way to do it.
Definitely.
The cut is pretty decent, especially right now, since YouTube is screwing a lot of I make $10 a month. I'm barely affected. It doesn't matter. But people who make a living on YouTube are seeing a lot of their videos demonetized or being struck with some limited advertising thing because YouTube uses an algorithm that doesn't know its bum from a hole in the ground. So if you really want to support your creators, support them on Patreon for $1 a month. I know that sounds like nothing.
But if 1,000 people,
right, exactly, but
at $1 a month, that's $1,000 that they get. Right. And Patreons they don't take a whole lot out of what the supporters pay. So it's actually very reasonable rates.
You get like 90% or something like that.
It's like I was doing when I was doing my monthly thing. I had $12 in support patrons, they were giving me $12 a month, and I think I was depositing at least 10 of that into my bank account. So,
so again, basically what I'm saying is, if you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to financially support your favorite creators on YouTube or wherever, Patreon's a pretty good place to do it. And if you don't like the monthly thing, most creators usually have some way to give them money, like PayPal or Google Wallet or a bunch of those. So go ahead
and even Patreon now, they have implemented a system where if you back someone or support someone, you get charged immediately, and that counts as that, and then it goes to their monthly thing or whatever. I don't know if that applies to every, like, to me now, where I only charge when I actually make something but yeah, like if somebody's doing a monthly thing, then yeah, you'll get charged immediately. And if that's all you want to do, you can just cancel your pledge right after that. So but yeah, so the Patreon's a great place. A lot of creatives are on there now. I don't think everybody is, but maybe we'll see some Patreon competitors pop up over the next year or two too.
Yeah. It also sets up. Now I don't have a whole hell of a lot of Patreons, so it's. But I'm looking forward to garnering more patrons, I guess, because Patreon also sets up this like kind of patron community, so that you can, which is really neat. And it's really neat to actually get to talk to the people that support you financially, because I'm always weirded out by people who do.
Yeah,
which shouldn't be, because I actually do donate to charities and actually support people I admire as much as I can. So I don't know why it weirds me out that other people would want to do the same for me, but it always weirds me. I look and see I have 8 people who are actually interested in giving me money to do the stuff I do. That is so weird to me, and I don't know what it is. But anyway, whether you support me or anyone else in Patreon or not, at the end of the day, I'm happy if you're watching and enjoying my work. So, yeah. So there you go. Anyway, debut review coming to an end. Maybe I'll do a couple specific episodes. Working on a finale for Everything But Wii U. Working on a finale, I'm guessing, or a revisit to the third-party stuff for this Nintendo Switch. And the Extra Life charity marathon is coming up in a month and a half. So look forward to all that neat stuff, and we'll talk to you again next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.